Hey, quick story for you here. We've seen it happen more than once here in the Twin Cities. A deal is moving along just fine, and then right before closing, a furnace issue, an electrical concern, or even a roofing question pops up. And suddenly things get stressful. That's exactly why we created our worry-free closing program at Twin City Heating, Air, and Electric. We send a licensed technician out to check the furnace, AC, electrical safety, water heater, and water softener, coordinate a roof evaluation with a licensed roofing contractor, and provide a full report on all the home's major systems. We can do this during due diligence or even before a home is listed, so potential issues get caught early. If you're a realtor or you're buying or selling a home, there's a simple way to keep things smooth. Twin City Heating, Air, Electric, built here, stays here.
From working in his family's Chinese restaurant, to bartending, to becoming present-day owner of Twin City Heating, Air, and Electric, my father's true superpower is human connection. Now, he's on a mission to capture the most fascinating stories that make up the Minnesota community. You're listening to the Twin City Tales podcast.
Every once in a while, you meet someone whose life proves that your past doesn't have to define your future. My guest today is Leo Sandoval. As a teenager and young adult, Leo battled addiction, spent years in Minnesota prison systems, and reached a point where he thought there was no way out. But one decision and one moment of surrender changed everything. Today, Leo is a successful entrepreneur, realtor, mentor, and man of faith who uses his story to help others find hope and purpose. What I appreciate most is that Leo doesn't make excuses. He owns his past, takes responsibility for his mistakes, and shows what's possible when you're willing to change. This is a conversation about redemption, resilience, second chances, and believing that no matter where you've been, your best chapter can still be ahead of you. Please welcome Leo Sandoval.
Thank you. Come on.
Let's
that
go.
Was perfect. Thank you. That was such a great introduction. Thank you so much.
Oh, man, my pleasure. I am just so enamored by your story. When you started telling about the stuff that you went through, I just thought, wow, what an amazing young man this guy is.
Thank you.
Let's start off with going back to like Chicago. What was life for you growing up there?
Yeah.
Because you were there until you were about 8 years old?
Yep. So I was born in Chicago. Yeah. Real quick, just thank you for having me. Thank you for having me on and just giving me a place to give others hope. And I'm very honored to be here today. And so thank you so much. Growing up, I was born in Chicago. It was a tough deal. I've got memories of gangs on the corner, just a lot of dysfunction in the home. My mom was an alcoholic. My dad wasn't in the picture. And so, I've got some memories of, some really hard times where my mom she would be gone most of the time. We'd be with different babysitters or just different. There's be a Christmas where Christmas was, a day late because she was, MIA. And, I got a memory of getting ripped out of my mom's arms as a little boy. She was suicidal at that time. And, just being a little boy, and they were kind of like restraining her and pulling her into an ambulance. And, as a little boy, was kind of ripped out of her hand, like something like you'd see in a movie almost.
Yeah.
And it was just horrific. I remember it, and it was just horrific being pulled away from her. And, it's interesting because I think, that impacts us more than I think we even realize sometimes. And so, yeah, just it was tough. Thanksgiving meals at the gas station, microwave, rats crawling on my mom, sleeping on a mattress on the floor. I could go on and on with the stories, but that kind of paints the picture of what that was like. My dad would show up on a Friday. He'd happen to be driving by, and He'd say, "Oh, I'm gonna go cash this check. I'll be right back," and then didn't come back and left me, out front. I'd go inside, get cleaned up. My mom would clean up my face and kind of get me ready, thinking I'm gonna go hang out with my dad, and then he didn't come back. He didn't come, and so just a lot of disappointment, a lot of abandonment feeling, a lot of just chaos and dysfunction on the day to day. Every day felt like, especially as a little boy, it was just, you don't know, and it became something as I got older, was just trying to survive the day to day, and so.
Wow. Yeah, we sometimes don't always realize how blessed we are where we're at sometimes. And when you left there to come to Minnesota,
Yeah.
Did life actually get better when you got here?
It did in some senses, and it very much didn't in many senses. And so, you can move geographically, but until you deal with what's on the inside, your issues just come with you wherever you go. And so for my mom, she meant well. She was trying to get us out of the ghetto, move to Minnesota, and so I do feel that made an impact on my life, even though, I would go on to, get into a world of mess of my own. I wonder sometimes how much like worse it could be if we had stayed in Chicago. Would I have got more gang affiliated? Would I have, just been that much more of an aggressive person than I already was, right? And so I think in that sense, it did make an impact on us. While at the same time, I mean, our issues came with us. She was gone at the bar every day, my mom, and at a young age, I started getting in trouble. I started experimenting with drinking and smoking weed. I think I was like 11 or 12 years old. Got my first felony for a terroristic threat. By the time I was 14, 15, I got my second felony for a second-degree burglary. And I had actually robbed houses while people were sleeping in it. So I very well could have gotten a first degree, which is what that would be. But, just lost. I was finding my identity, beginning to find my identity in all the wrong people, places, and things. And so I started, going in and out of the juvenile detention system over and over and over again. Too many times to count. I went to juvie too many times to count. Started going to treatment at a young age, and it kind of just I was off and running. I was expelled from middle school for selling weed. Eventually I dropped out. I dropped out after my freshman year. Just because I was just in and out of juvie so much, and just living life in the streets, and just just was lost, and just again, just that identity was just very much misplaced, and so I was off and running.
At that time, did you just feel like, God, this is just who I am, and there was, or did you still know there was something out there that was better for you?
Yeah,
because I feel like having that. From 7 to like 15, you start having that mindset that's like, this is who I am.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I wrestled with that my whole life. I think that you don't know what you don't know. And, in some senses, you could say I was a product of my environment. And so I think deep down, I always knew I was better. I always knew that I was capable of more. I just was lost in so much chaos and survival growing up that it kind of became who I was. And so I think that, in some senses, I knew deep down that I was capable of more, but I didn't believe in myself. I didn't think I was worthy. I was carrying a lot of turmoil that I didn't know what to do with. And so it was just kind of a big ball of craziness.
And that's a really hard position to be at the age of 15, right? Because that's like the most formidable years of your life.
For sure.
And what it shapes you. So you have to keep shaping it differently as you're growing through that.
Yeah.
And, you told me at that time you had like 2 felonies by the time you were 15.
Yeah.
And that's what makes me think, like, as a young mind, you start thinking, this is who I am.
Sure.
And then you eventually ended up in prison.
Yeah.
Because of that.
Yeah.
What was that first day like when that door actually shut behind you in prison and you kind of go, I'm not going home, dude.
Yeah. Well, what led me to that point, after I aged out after 18, and real quick, I just want to insert, my mom did end up getting sober in my later teenage years. By then I was already off and running. And so I do want to take a moment to just honor her in that she did try to clean up her life. And she did try to help me get my act together, but it was just too late. I was already off and running. And so, as an adult, I'm in and out of jail too many times to count. DWIs, 4 DWIs, assault charges. And so going to prison, you start in St. Cloud. And so it's in the summertime, they don't have air conditioning. So it's literally a sweat box in there. You and your bunkmate, it's so hot in there. You're just in your underwear. You're just sweating. You're in your underwear. It's like survival, just trying to survive. And it is very much like what you would see in a movie. St. Cloud facility, at least, with the bars and, the different tiers and the chaos and the commotion that's going on. What we did to pass time, because it was 23-hour lockdown. And so we made little toilet paper chess pieces. We would dampen it with water, and we would make a little chessboard and make little chess pieces just to pass time, 23-hour lockdown. And so, I started out at St. Cloud. Eventually, I was transferred to Faribault facility. And so, kind of had some trouble there too. And so,
and when you drive by St. Cloud, if anybody's driven up from the cities to St. Cloud on Highway 10, it's the prison on the left-hand side as you're going. And it is intimidating. It's old, and it's got those big walls up. And man, when you're a younger kid and you see that, that's intimidating, And
sure.
And the one thing that just kind of hit me too right now was like, you always, what I really love about one of the lines that you always say is, I need to prove people right.
Yeah.
Which is really super cool. But that just shows that you always have that hope, right? And what really just hit me right then was your mom getting sober. Like, if she never was able to achieve that and you didn't see that, even though you were up and running and already going down a bad path, I feel like that gave you a little bit of hope there. Like, if she could do it, I can do this.
It absolutely did. And, in 2019, I lost my mother, and that was kind of part of my story, my journey into my entrepreneurship. I definitely try to honor her in that way where, it was hell growing up. There's no sugarcoating that. It was really hard. Went through a lot of stuff. But I do have compassion in the sense of, like, what did she go through? And, generationally speaking, we always try to just cut that trauma in half, even of the things that we go through and the things that our kids go through. And so I can only imagine, with the magnitude of what I experienced and dealt with growing up, the magnitude of what she dealt with and experienced growing up. And so that gives me some compassion towards her in that. And I know how much, I've broken that with my kids as well, furthermore. And to that point, I always say that she started breaking the chains. And I have to finish breaking the chains. Like, generationally, it's so thick. The dysfunction has been so thick. The mental health struggles, the addiction, the alcoholism. It's so thick that we need 2 generations of like breaking it up just to truly break it up. And so thank you for that and saying that, because absolutely I want to honor her in that way where, you know, she did get onto a good path, and, you know, we did have a very good relationship, you know, as she went to be with the Lord. She always told me I would be the one to take care of her. And I got 4 siblings, and you don't really know what that looks like until that time comes. And it was really hard. But you know, it's a great honor to have been by her side with her through that process. And so, yeah, I definitely want to honor her.
No, that's beautiful. And, you know, my mom has passed away since too. And, you know, you don't learn some of the stuff of what happened until you kind of start sifting through it. And it's kind of sad that you have to do it after their death, right?
Sure.
Sometimes. And
Sure.
I didn't realize this, but my mom probably was like 8, 9 years old, going through World War II in China.
Sure.
And she's trying to get to Hong Kong.
Wow.
And, you know, there's for another podcast, but she went through some stuff that she had a lot of mental health issues. And one of the things that she did was she'd have a nervous breakdown and start yelling, "The Japanese are coming, the Japanese are coming."
Yeah.
But she never really talked about it. And I have the feeling that she might have been raped or something, because it just, there's signs of it with that PTSD.
Sure.
I try and do this show to honor my parents, because you just, if you hear the song Thanks from Chris Hockey, it says, hey, you know, I will never know what you went through, you know, our parents went through.
Yeah.
They were told to do things that they probably didn't want to do, but they had to do it. So that's what this program is really about. So I'm glad you shared that with us.
For sure.
Let's get back into it, though. I know we're kind of digressing a little bit, but you spent some time in St. Cloud Penitentiary.
Yep.
What was prison really like compared to what we actually see on TV, right? Because, like, it is like, I don't think it's sugar-coated, but it also goes really extreme, too, right?
For sure. I would say that there's different levels to it. And, you know, like what you see on the TV, you know, it's TV shows and movies. Typically, I would say you're going to find that in your Illinois systems, your California systems, your, you know, where it's a different breed of guys in there, of women in there, and, you know, and because it's not necessarily like, you know, completely different either. You know, I think geographically every area has their fair share of, you know, trouble and dysfunction and learning going on. And so with our system here in Minnesota, you know, you definitely have some heavy hitters. You definitely have, you know, guys you don't mess with. And you know, it definitely has its fair share of dysfunction in the system here. Yeah.
So you told me that there were times when you thought, man, I just want out of this life.
Yeah.
And it's hard to change.
Yeah.
Was there even when you knew that there was like, I don't want to live that way anymore?
Yeah.
Was there always a certain moment while you were in prison that hit you?
For sure. I mean, I'm in prison and I'm thinking to myself, I really don't belong here. You know, like, and it's hard to say that or believe that with all the trouble I had been through and all the times, the million times I've been locked up. But just deep down, I knew that there was more to me, and I was just lost. But, you know, I mean, like, even being there and getting into a prison fight, you know, over something as trivial as fantasy football. And so, you know, there was a situation where, you know, dude wanted to pick a fight, and, you know, his nickname was LA, just to kind of give you a picture, a bigger guy. His name was LA, and, this is my first time in prison, and kind of not really knowing what to expect, and it was a little scary, a little nerve-wracking in that situation, and having to step in our cell and fight like dogs. So both of us stepping in, shut the door behind us, and scrapping like dogs. It's not exactly something that I said when I grew up. I want to go to prison and
So
get into prison fights,
yeah.
and right, like to with your question, like, I always knew there was more to me, but I was just lost, and I was just stuck in the system, and I was just trying to do the best I could. And so, but, I found myself in these situations that very much caused me to reflect and think about where my life was heading and where it was at. And so, with the commotion of that situation, everyone's kind of looking at the door and kind of like, who's going to come out winner. And so, pop the door, I come out like, winner of that fight there. And, but, still it was scary. And it was, a situation, could have gotten into a lot of trouble, could have got prison time extended, but thankfully, we kind of just handled our business and kept moving forward.
Well, let me ask you this. If you chose not to go in there and fight,
Yeah.
what happens? What are the consequences with that?
Good question. Honestly, more than anything, you're a coward. And for me, I am not that. And
Yeah.
so it was like there wasn't much choice. Like I'd rather go in there and get my ass whooped than have that stigma on me and the whole, block that this guy's a pussy, this guy's a coward. Because I feel like those days would be way worse to deal with than stepping in and just taking care of something real quick. And so, unfortunately, my reach was pretty good in that situation. And so, it came out okay.
But once you're like known for being a punk batch, right? Like now everybody's coming after you.
Sure.
That's where I feel like, and I've not spent a time in prison, so and I don't think I could last very long.
Yeah. No, you definitely got, exploitation and, guys who would take advantage of the weakness or, and so I found myself with a lot of the Hispanics. So the kind of group with your race for the most part in there. And so, whether it be even them, losing their respect, or even the rest of the unit, it just wasn't an option. And so after that, I definitely had everyone's respect, and that definitely, it increased the respect that I had, and it increased how much they had my back if there were going to be any problems anymore. And so, but yeah, it is very much kind of race, but it's not like California though, where it's like, you don't cross this line, otherwise we're gonna, it's like, it happens, but it's not that aggressive. Like, you can sit at a card table and play with the white brothers or the black brothers, and we can play cards together and be cordial with one another. Yeah. But when there's an issue, it definitely, has its time and its place where, you kind of fall in line with who your people are, so.
But now, I gotta admit, I have watched like some of those prison shows on TV.
Yeah.
And when you talk about like you fall into your certain space, right? Mm-hmm. I got to ask this because I'm Asian, and I don't see a lot of Asians in there. Like usually when you're seeing, it's like Aryan nation, right? And you see the Hispanics and you see but you don't see a lot of Asians in that. Yeah. So like if I'm going in there, there's only like another maybe couple Asians in there, or is there more?
Yeah, there's more. Is there? In Minnesota, Minnesota. And you get a lot of Asians that have migrated from California to Minnesota as well. There's a lot of Bloods, there's a lot of Crips, there's a lot of there's another one that I'm spacing on the name of them, and I know some of these guys. I know I know some of these Asian guys who have been on the news for shooting at each other, and these guys are just like me, where they've turned their life around, and I have to introduce you to some of them. They've got some really powerful stories where, I mean, these guys talk about, man, I pulled out my gun and I was shooting at them and they were shooting back. I'm just like, man, you guys are crazy. Them Asians are crazy.
I guess when you watch the TV, they don't kind of put them in there as much,
they're
right?
Definitely
like,
there.
They're really
definitely there.
Because on the TV shows, they just have the blacks, the Mexicans, and the Aryan nation, right?
Sure.
The Aryans, right?
Yep.
And they just make it so that it's so drama filled. So they probably
it's grown a lot, I think, too.
It?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it's just grown a lot. There's especially Minnesota. There's a lot of Asian gang activity in Minnesota. Yeah.
Okay. And so then you keep going in and out.
Yeah.
There had to been a time where you're asking yourself, why do I keep doing this?
Yeah, for sure. I think honestly, I mean, I got out of prison. I was on parole. I got a DWI while I was on parole.
Wow.
Like, how insane is that? That's my alcoholism. I got a job. I thought I deserved to have a drink because I'm doing so well. And I get a DWI while I'm on parole. And thankfully, I ended up finishing my parole on house arrest, so they didn't send me back to prison, which they very well could have. They chose to have me finish it on house arrest. And I'm a very reflective guy, and so I'm always thinking, like, why do I do the things I do? Why do I do it? And even till this day, I'm still that same way as I grow as a person, as I grow as a man. Why do I do that? Or, try to just kind of understand myself more. And absolutely, I always had this sense of, like, I know I'm so much more capable, so much more than what the choices I'm doing. But it's almost a self-sabotage too, in some senses, because you're experiencing an unworthiness within yourself, that you're not good enough, or you're not worthy of maybe the life that you see, or comparison's the thief of joy, they say. And so it's like, but in that unworthiness, and this is something that I've had to learn even up to my age now, of how that can show up in my life, where we experience an unworthiness and then we'll self-sabotage and we'll do something so stupid that literally could blow up our life, and then it doesn't make any sense, and you're like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, I know that's how self-sabotage works. It's like, you go through that unworthiness, and then you self-sabotage, and you make choices, or you display behaviors that really, truly, speaking for myself, that really weren't who I am or was or want to be. And, that's definitely, there's been patterns to identify in that, and, pain and hardship to lean into in that, to develop character, to address our character defects and our shortcomings, to, give them to God, and to continue to grow and become the man that he's calling me to be. Because I do believe that he's calling me to be someone in not just my accolades, but in character, and how I show up and make an impact in in people's lives around me. And so I'm very much, interested to see that person. But to get there, we got to go through the process of just growing and learning life, living and learning. Right. And so, yeah.
And I keep hearing that word, not the word. I keep seeing you and what I think is resiliency and hope. And I feel like a big part of that ties in together. But you told me the story when we talked before, which I find part of that whole hope and resiliency works together. You said when you kept going back, and one day you just looked at a ceiling and said, Jesus, if you're real, get me out of this life.
Yeah.
And 2 weeks later, you get busted again.
You remember that story.
Exactly. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I don't share that all the time.
Are you okay with sharing that?
Yeah.
Because I think it was such a beautiful story
No,
that kind of pushes you into who you become today.
It absolutely is a defining moment in my life. That moment of, it was 5 a.m. in the morning. I was coked out. I'd been doing coke all night. I had a 175 of vodka that I was drinking and was almost empty. A little splash of it left. And so I'm coked out and I'm drunk and I'm 5 a.m. in my apartment on the west side of St. Paul. And I look up at my ceiling and I say, Jesus, if you're real, get me out of this life. Now, I was crying. I was kind of a drunk, coked out mess, just full disclosure. But, I said these words clear as day. And then, 2 weeks later, I got busted. And I was I was miserable. I was miserable because I wanted more out of life. I wanted to better myself, but I just didn't know how. I just didn't believe in myself. I didn't believe I was worthy of it. And so, wrestling with that is a very painful place of just like, just like this dualistic that I think even we all deal with, right? And some may be deeper than others, depending on the season we're in or what we're going through, but just that like good and bad just wrestling with each other. And I remember thinking to myself, man, I would like to go to church. But I remember feeling and daydreaming that if I went into a church, I literally would daydream myself walking into a church and that they would all like see right through me and see like all my issues and I would just get rejected, or that I would almost like light on fire because of all the issues that I carried, and I would just be judged, which later I came to find that was not my experience at all. As someone who goes to church every Sunday, they're very much loving and, meeting people right where they're at and whatever people are going through. But these are just the lies that I had formed and the limited beliefs that I had. And so, I got busted 2 weeks later, and I remember sitting in the back of the squad car and I'm cuffed, and I remember looking up at the sky, and I specifically remember saying, Jesus, is this you? Is this you? Like, I couldn't help but remember that prayer 2 weeks prior, and I couldn't help but to feel this grief of, I don't know, just like something was dying off. Something was dying off, and like I had just this sliver of glimpse of hope, I guess. And now, dependent on the day, some days were easier, some days are harder because all the fear, the doubt, the chaos, being charged with first-degree drug trafficking, that's scary. That's really scary. And so it had its days where, it was really scary and hard, and, but I'd be hitting my knees in that jail cell. Been trying to read my Bible. It's kind of overwhelming if you've never, done that, and kind of just having almost a desperate hope of like, Lord, I don't want to go to prison for 10 years, 12 years. I don't want to be an absent father to my two sons at that time. I have 4 kids now. At that time, my 2 sons, and I was experiencing all this grief of like, man, I'm literally about to write the same story as what I went through growing up. And so all these emotions and grief and regret and like, man, I'm better than this. My kids deserve better than this. I'm hitting my knees. I'm desperate. I'm crying out to God. And so my story is also unique in the sense that I think a lot of people come to Christ in a jail, in a church. For me, I came to God in a jail cell, and that's really where God met me, was in that jail cell, and some beautiful things started to happen from there.
Yeah, and when you say scary, it was 144 months that you were facing for prison time,
Yeah.
and a $400,000 bail. Like,
Yeah.
like that's like even if it's like 10% that you have to come up with, right,
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yep,
But
yep,
still,
yep.
$40,000
Yeah.
plus.
Yeah.
Not
We needed
much
some
going with you.
miracles.
You
We
did.
needed some miracles.
And how do you at that point not go?
Yeah.
My life is pretty much over.
That's the battle.
You
It's
know?
because you're trying to have hope. You're desperate for it, but what the evidence is showing, what the circumstances are showing is like, I wouldn't get your hopes up too much here, you know,
Yeah.
or just all of that. And, you know, that's another thing where I honor my mother. You know, she had sold her pickup truck. She loved that truck. It wasn't anything super fancy, but she sold her truck to help with a private attorney retainer, and just some things started happening that I couldn't look past without sensing there was something more to this. And so, you know, one day, Teen Challenge came into the jail. So Minnesota Adult and Teen Challenge is a faith-based treatment program for 13-month long. It's the longest treatment program that you can go to in the state. And so they came in, and I kind of explained my situation. They're like, all right, well, fill out this application. Don't talk to him. Don't talk to him. They're not your friends. They'll throw you under the bus real quick. Keep your mouth shut. Fill out this application. And so I did. And I got an acceptance letter back that I was accepted, because you have to like write a letter and fill out the application, and they don't just take everyone. And so, you know, I got through that application process. I was accepted. Now, like, how am I going to pay for it? You know, and so like going through the application for the funding, county funding, to, you know, to get the funds for rehabilitation. That was something that I had been through that process before a number of times, and always took it for granted. I always just went with the motions of it. How can I get out of jail? How can I get out of trouble? How can I get out of this situation just so I can get back to doing what I want to do? But this was different. It was something that I just felt like something greater than me was putting together. And so when they approved me for that county funding, for me, it was like earth was shaking. It was like I didn't take it for granted. I was so grateful that that county funding got approved. I was so grateful that Minnesota Adult and Teen Challenge had accepted me. Now I got to convince the judge and the prosecutor. You know, we got a private attorney, so that also, you know, things were just getting put together for me. And we go to court, and, you know, they lowered my bail. And so it was a unique situation where it was a bail furlough. And so, like, you pay a bail, you usually go home. For me, it was a pay a bail, but I had to go to Teen Challenge. So they lowered it enough. You know, I bailed out, I went straight to Teen Challenge. And that's really, I continued. I was already surrendered in that jail cell on my hands and knees, and reading my Bible, and just, you know, desperate for God to help me figure this situation out. And then when I went to Teen Challenge, I just continued to surrender. I continued to change the way I conducted myself, the way I talked, the way, you know, I kind of walked, I took it serious. I mentioned, you know, we talked about, like, you know, did you, like, the hope that you had in any of these situations. And that's what finally came out of me, was I'm better than this, and I'm going to prove people right. I'm going to make every bit of this opportunity, take advantage, and, like, do the right thing, and grow as much as I can. So I was meeting with my counselors regularly, weekly, small groups regularly, weekly. You're in chapel every morning. You got all this homework and personal development work that you're doing for 13 months. It's pretty intensive. And so, and the longevity of it as well allows us to learn new habits, learn, how to do life in a new way. We were fortunate enough sometimes to go to a Vikings game or go to they would get hooked up with tickets for us to be able to go. And I was so intentional that I knew, because of all the tailgating and partying that I had done previously, it was like, this needs to be different. I need to learn how to do this without needing to smoke weed, get high, or get drunk. Like, I can just enjoy myself. I can just have pure joy in life and enjoy a basketball game. And so I kind of went through that process of just being really intentional, and then also just, you really leaning into the situation I was in which I still had to go back to court.
Wow. That's a pretty big, daunting feeling to have. But, you brought up a name that I felt like really helped you quite a bit, and that teen challenge was Gina Evans.
Yeah, Gina.
Tell us a little bit more about Gina Evans.
Yeah, Gina. I haven't talked to her much recently, but I'll always refer to her as my guardian angel. She was the teen challenge representative that came into the jail, had me fill out the application. She's just been a huge advocate and community advocate. She's very much politically involved in laws and different things to, really, advocate for guys like me who are trying to, sort life out and get the help that we need without just locking them up and throwing away the key, right? And so, she's been, someone who, I've considered my guardian angel. We still cross paths from time to time, and always very grateful when we do.
What do you think because she has a lot of people to deal with, but to put that special effort into you, right? Yeah. Because I'm sure she put special into other people, but there was something that she saw in you. Yeah. Looking back, what did she see in you, do you think, that you didn't see in yourself at that time?
I think she saw someone who was a young adult, had his whole future ahead of him, had experienced a lot of chaos, a lot of trauma, a lot of dysfunction and things that I was putting myself through. But I think she saw a young man who had 2 kids that had good in him and potential in him. And I think that's what she saw.
That's awesome. So after Teen Challenge, you started, you actually went back to schools, kids, talking to kids in schools.
Yeah.
And you're standing in front of those kids, looking around. Yeah. There's probably a 14-year-old Leo that you're sitting in that room right now, right? That you see. Yeah. What was the message that you were able to give them?
Yeah. Well, we had to go through the court process of the judge allowing me to finish Teen Challenge. I still had to go back to court. The prosecutor was trying to offer me 90 months as a deal, and which I declined and said no. I want the opportunity to finish Teen Challenge, and so with some wrestling, God opened that door for me to do that. I graduated Teen Challenge, and I started sharing my story in high schools and middle schools. And so every high school and middle school, probably in the Twin Cities, I've spoke at and shared my story. I want to say 600 presentations that I was able to do that year. And so, particularly, I'm the troublemaker in the class. So when I see the one who's kind of obnoxious and kind of like attention grabbing, that's usually like, because why are they like that? They probably aren't getting it at home. They probably are going through some things at home that no one has a clue about, and coming to school and just trying to fit in and trying to do what they think is normal, but it's not. And so I kind of like, I spot those kids. But that's the thing, is it doesn't discriminate. And that's kind of the message that we carried at that time was, I'm not going to tell you not to do drugs, because that would be hypocritical to do that. But I did them, and these are the consequences. This is where it has led me, and all the consequences I still have to deal with. And so to get our youth to think about their choices, where they're at, versus lecturing them super hard, or, but hey, just think about it. Like, here's my experience, and think about it so that you don't have to have these same consequences, that I've had to experience. And so, and then, my favorite was typically when we would go into the juvenile centers and speak to those settings. There's a couple where I got to see like where my cell was at, and when I was a kid, and just kind of walk down memory lane of just remembering when I was there, and then even crossing paths with other programs, intensive juvenile programs that I had went through. And I'm at the gym, and all of a sudden I bump into like one of the supervisors of this level 5 intensive, like there's a program called New Chance, and I don't know if it's still called that, but it's a level 5 for like the most troublemakers in Dakota County, the most troublemakers. It's connected to the juvie. And so like, you act out, you talk back to the teacher, or you misbehave, they're just walking you right next door into the juvie.
Wow.
Like literally.
Yeah.
And so I'm at the gym, and I bump into Matt Bauer. He's one of the supervisors over there, and he remembers me, and I remember, hey, how's it going, man? Oh, Leo, how you doing? It's like, well, this is what I'm up to now. And so, getting us into spaces that we weren't in, and getting us into to make that impact, to make that difference. And for me, that was like probably my favorite of them all, was being able to go and speak into the very places that I had spent time.
And changing those kids' lives too, having that opportunity to, right?
Yeah.
And that's what they make of it. So
Yeah.
but you save one kid, I just feel like that's like well worth what you just did.
Yeah.
Yeah. At that point, after Teen Challenge, you started like rebuilding your life piece by piece, and you got into construction. Mm-hmm. You were working cell towers, which I think it's something I could never do, climbing those heights. Car business, snow plowing.
Yeah.
How do you go from prison to becoming an entrepreneur with, and now you have all those trucks on the road too. Yeah. And what's the name of your company for people that that would like to know?
Yeah, Sandoval Services.
Okay.
So we own Sandoval Services. I run 2 businesses, Sandoval Services for towing and snow plowing, as well as Integrity Dream Home, powered by EXP, is a real estate team that I run. And so, you can kind of almost say I went from facing 144 months for trafficking cocaine to now I've channeled those God-given gifts in a positive direction, very entrepreneurially spirited, but showing others that they can do it too. You don't have to let your mistakes of the past or past behaviors define you. You can channel that in a positive direction. And so, it was tough. I mean, initially getting out of treatment, very grateful for any opportunities that I can get, going into construction, climbing that's where my faith grew as well. I just had this Christ-like enthusiasm. No matter what I did, as miserable as it was some days, I was going to have a great attitude, and I was going to do it the best that I could. And that's brought me places. It's opened up doors for me. And so, working on the cell phone towers, I would climb up hundreds of feet high. I'd be feeling like I'm so far over the tree lines and feel like I can touch the clouds almost. I felt like, man, thank you, God. Like, I'm up here, and just how awesome, like, of an experience and opportunity. Some days I miss it. Some days I'm like, man, I would love to just go do it for a day and just, climb up and just help the guys out. We were installing cell phone antennas And so, and some good friends of mine, Ed and Alicia Titus, owners of Meridian Blue Construction, good friends of mine still. Love you guys. And so, yeah, they gave me an opportunity, and I did that for a time, and then I went into the Ironworkers Union, and so then I was working on the U.S. Bank Stadium at that time, and so it was like God was giving me the best opportunities, even though I was like, Lord, I'm such a people person, and this construction stuff, like, where are you at? Kind of, and so there were some days that were tough, but again, just having a positive attitude, doing it for God, and just being patient and waiting for those breakthroughs to come, and which they did. Yeah.
Which is really interesting, because I was going to bring up the realtor thing afterwards, because those jobs that you got wasn't so dependent upon your past. Like, you could still get get those jobs, even though you might have had to knock on the door 4 or 5 times to prove them right.
Yep.
That wasn't as difficult as becoming a realtor to a certain extent, because with the felonies on your record, you have to pass some regulations, and I feel like there had to have been a couple times where they kind of turned you down, or maybe you got it on the first try, but I feel like there's got to be something there where you're like, are they going to ever give me a chance?
Yeah. Well, that came to me when I was getting my foot in the door into the car business. I had pastor friends of mine or people I knew who were in management positions, could see, that I am very much a people person, and, had opportunities come my way, but my background, whether it was my criminal record or my driving record, the door just would not open for me. And it literally, the door opened for me. And it was like, man, when that happened, I like I mentioned earlier, like, I want to prove people right. And so going into the automotive sales, just never having done it before, didn't really know if I could do it or not, didn't know what the pay was like. I took, from going in construction into entry-level car sales, I took a huge pay cut, but I knew if I could do this, that maybe this can work out and I could make a career of it. But it was like, it was divine nature for me when the door opened, and the door opened at the right time, because it hasn't been easy. There were, like I mentioned, been times I've been rejected over and over and over again because of my background, and I just had to stay patient. I could get the efforts. I could say, whatever, I'm gonna go drink now, or right, that self-sabotage. But I just knew if I just kept the faith and I just stayed faithful, that the right doors would open at the right time. And so then, same with the real estate. I just about 6, 7, 8 weeks ago, I had a speaking engagement that I spoke to 100 men at a treatment center. And one of them had expressed he had a felony from 2019. He's been off probation. He's in treatment. He's kind of cleaning up some things with himself, but looking for some direction and some mentorship. And so, for me, having been through the process as a 3-time felon, I guess 5 felonies with my juvenile record, to advocate, that's my heart, is I want to pay it forward and advocate for the next guy. Hey, give this guy a shot. I'll take him under my wing. I'll show him how it's done. Because I'm someone who has proven you right in, getting my license, getting my real estate license, where, I had to jump through a bunch of hoops. I had to get character reference letters. I had to put a lot of prayer and faith into it for them to give me that opportunity. And so I don't take it for granted. I do, sense the divine nature in the opportunity. And so trying to help the next guy, he goes through and they deny him. And I'm like, man, it humbles me to realize, I can't ever take this stuff for granted, because there are people who would kill for some of these opportunities. And, but it hasn't come easy. It hasn't. I've been rejected. I've been denied. I've been told no, all the things many times. But just, staying faithful, hanging in there, and you got to give yourself the opportunity to get to the breakthrough. And so, that's kind of, I guess, what I try to do.
Wow. It's just incredible on your story, on where you've been, where you're going to, where you are today. Because the other thing I really admire about you, because you've gone through all that, you've also built yourself a team around your real estate your business that you go through, because you just seem to push every day. Do you think everything that you've been through, I feel like, has it actually made you become a better leader?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm someone who I lead through strength and courage and vulnerability. A lot of times it is strength when leading through vulnerability, even, right? And so to let anyone know, doesn't matter what you've been through, we can channel all of that into great things, and not only for ourselves, but so that we can make an impact in other people's lives. And so, absolutely, I'm very grateful for both of my teams. My real estate team, particularly, they have, been great as I've, been a solo agent, solo practitioner for about 7 or 8 years. Launched my team. Now we've got a small team there's about 5 of us on the team, and coaching them, mentoring them, teaching them all the things. And not only professionally, but personally as well. And, with my towing team, they've had my back. Both of my teams have just continued to believe in me. And, I'm very grateful for my teams. I'm so grateful. I can't say that enough.
I feel like all this is culminating into a passion that you really have with serving the community.
Yeah.
Really is helping, like, people that have served some time or who have been troubled. With that, like, you're building up these other things that can help you provide that more back to the community, which is super cool. What does Leo do today during his days? Like, you've got so many different extensions and understanding. Like, for me being an entrepreneur, I just do my business and it's a lot of work. My part of my giving back is I want to help other entrepreneurs by giving them a platform to talk about, their things.
That's awesome.
What is it that you're doing today that really fuels what you do?
Well, I help a lot of people through employment. A lot of people coming into recovery or coming out of a treatment where they might get rejected or denied. I mentioned trying to help someone at a speaking engagement get their real estate license. That's probably a good example right there of just how I try to use my platform to make impact in people's lives and to give people a shot. And just furthermore, Christian-owned company, like all of our tow trucks have scripture on our tow trucks. And, I serve on a board of directors for a missions program out of Africa, Bridge of Blessing. And so just, I'm any way I can make a difference, give a guy a job or an opportunity, mentoring a guy, but even just giving them hope that, man, this guy's been through all that. He's had this long sober. He's doing these businesses. He's a productive person here, and, maybe I can do that. I have one of my dispatchers for my towing company. Just last week, we were sitting down and we were just having a random conversation at the office. And he's like, "Thank you, Leo. Thank you so much." He said, no one wanted me. No one wanted me. I'm so grateful that you gave me this opportunity. And I'm like, for sure, like 100%, man. I said, you see everything going on here. We got the trucks, you got the dispatchers, the managers, this operation, booking the calls, money's coming in, you see the money going around. I said, none of that matters to me as much as what you just said. And I'm like, that is why I do what I do, is because, like, you got to honor it. You got to do your part. I can't do it for you, but to just give a guy a shot and believe in him, I mean, that makes the world of difference.
Oh my goodness. And it just makes that saying that you say all the time that I've noticed, proving someone right.
Yeah.
That's what the team that you've built.
Yeah.
That's the culture that you've built around your teams.
Yeah.
Prove me right.
Yeah.
Keep proving me right.
Yeah.
That's where I value you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
With that, it's a lot to digest. Let's cut it to a break, and we'll be back shortly here.
Sounds good.
That's so fantastic. At Twin City Tales Podcast, we believe in strong communities are built by people and organizations willing to care for others. That's why we are proud to support Hammer and NER, an incredible Minnesota nonprofit helping adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities live life to the fullest. Their work creates opportunity, dignity, independence, and connection right here in our community. If you'd like to help, Hammer and NER is always looking for volunteers, advocates, and donations to continue their mission. I am one of those people that highly help that community out. Learn more, get involved, or give back at hammer.org. Together, we can continue building a stronger, more compassionate community for everyone. Ever walk into a house and flip a switch and have no idea what it actually does? Like, is it a light, an outlet, or something in the garage? Nobody knows. Or what about when you plug in something into an outlet and it just slowly falls out like it's giving up on life? Or worse, the outlet just doesn't work at all. Well, we see that stuff every day. At Twin City Heating, Air, and Electric, we help homeowners take care of those small electrical issues before they turn into bigger problems. Loose outlets, dead plugs, mystery switches, we'll track it down, fix it right, and make your home actually work the way it's supposed to. So if something feels off electrically, it probably is. Twin City Heating, Air, and Electric, built here, stays here, feel the difference. Before we jump back into the conversation with Leo, I'm going to ask you a quick favor. If you're enjoying Twin City Tales, please take a moment to hit that subscribe or follow button. It helps us share these incredible stories with more people throughout the Twin Cities and beyond. And if you've enjoyed an episode, learned something new, or just have been inspired by one of our guests, we greatly appreciate a rating or review. It only takes a minute, but it helps others discover the show. You can find Twin City Tales Podcast on Spotify, YouTube, and wherever you enjoy your favorite podcasts. And don't forget to follow Twin City Tales on Facebook for behind-the-scenes content, upcoming guests, episode highlights, and more stories from around our community, including some history that you might want to learn about. Most importantly, thank you. This podcast is built around celebrating the people who make a difference: business leaders, community champions, entrepreneurs, athletes, and everyday people with extraordinary stories to tell. Your support allows us to continue sharing those stories. Now let's get back into my conversation with Leo. And remember, life is too short for bad stories, bad coffee, or bad service, and you can't go wrong with Wymond Wong. Now, Leo.
Well, we got the good coffee. So.
We do. We're rocking it today. Who is someone you would love to see or even hear on this podcast? And why?
Gosh. Who would I love to see on this podcast and why? I feel like I'd have a handful of people that would be really good. I would say Nicole Jacobs.
Oh,
Nicole Jacobs is the founder of Real Recovery, and it's a really cool nonprofit that helps people in addiction to, it's a therapeutic approach with helping people with their fishing license and going fishing and things like that. And so, yeah, awesome cause there. She's got a lot of momentum going in that. And yeah, shout out to Nicole.
there you go. No, I might have to get an introduction from you.
Gotcha.
So, all right. Well, this is the part of our podcast where we bring some pictures out, and you can tell us a little bit about it. And this first one, tell us a little bit about this. This was when you were about 5, and you're on the end with 2 other little boys.
Yeah.
Where is that?
That's in Chicago.
That's in
See, I got the Chicago Bulls tank top on there. I don't know who the kid in the middle is, but I know that's my cousin on the right side there. Yeah,
Okay.
he's like a brother to me, and so yeah, that's funny.
Are you a big basketball fan still?
I like basketball. Yeah, it's not my top sport. I'm more of a football,
Okay.
NFL, diehard Chicago Bears fan.
Okay.
Diehard. I've been to Soldier Field a number of times. I've been to Ford Field. I've been to Lambeau Field watching the Bears, US Bank watching the Bears. But I'm more of a Timberwolves fan though when it comes to basketball. So I like what the Timberwolves got going on right now.
I got to ask because we're going to date this podcast.
Yeah.
Should LeBron be here or not?
I think that would be really cool. I actually just saw the headlines today.
Yeah, I know.
He signed with the 76ers. But, no, I mean, I think that would be cool. I think we've got a really good team they put together this year. Adding him into that, I think, would help. But what's meant to be will be. So
I guess Dan was saying, and that's okay. Now that he comes into town, Edwards will just tear him apart. I guess.
Exactly. Exactly. You go to Timberwolves games fairly often?
We
or?
did last year. We had half season tickets, but I'm still debating on whether we're going to re-up them or not. It gets expensive,
I hear you.
But I donate a few of them. But we really enjoyed last season, so yeah, it's hard to say.
Yeah,
but we'll get to a few games, I'm sure. Do you get to a few games?
I do. Yeah, I try to hit a handful of games. I was gonna say, you get that half season, hit me up. Let me know.
We'll have to go to one. Absolutely,
that would be amazing. Yeah.
You know who I want to go see? Actually, I want to see the Lynx in one of these games.
Okay.
And against the Fever, obviously, that would be kind of fun to see.
Yeah.
I kind of regret telling my wife at one point, and it wasn't a sexist thing. It was just at the time, right? Like 5-6 years ago, she asked me, because I got season tickets to the Wolves. I used to get them the full year, and season tickets to the Saints. And she says, how come you don't get season tickets to women's basketball? And I hope I don't offend you women out there. But at that time, I have no interest in a basketball game where no one can dunk.
Sure. I hear you. That's fair.
But now these girls can get
hooping.
up there.
They're
They can play.
Yeah.
So it's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Our next picture we'll go to is that one. And that's you on the end, on the north, with the Northfield football
so
shirt on?
that's me. I want to say I'm, 15, 16.
Okay.
That's my grandma in the middle, and then that's my little brother, Rob.
Okay.
My brother and I grew up together, best friends. And so we've been through a lot of the same things together. We still stay in touch, and shout out to my brother.
Yeah. I mean, when growing up from Chicago to Minnesota, and at 15, you're in Northfield, right? Like, very predominantly, like, just a pure, like, hardly any crime town, right? And, like, small.
Yep.
What was that like for you?
Yeah, I guess I would say so when we moved from Chicago, we moved around a lot. Whether it was me getting kicked out of school or getting kicked out of the trailer park for burglarizing homes, or, one thing or another. We moved around a lot. And It was hard. It was hard because I never could quite get settled, but at the same time, being someone who's, biracial, I'm half Mexican and half white, that was challenging because, on one side, it was like all my white friends. I mean, I experienced a lot of bullying. I was called a spick my whole life, border hopper, beaner, all the terms I was called. And so, but then on the other side, it's like, because I'm half, it's like, oh, you're not Mexican enough, right? And so there was that identity of like, and now, I've come to, the place of, I'm very proud of who I am and how I was made,
Yeah.
and what I stand for, and so I'm very much proud to be half white, and I'm very much proud to be half Mexican. I'm very much proud of who I am in that way, and so yeah. But it was tough. It was from an identity standpoint, and I know there's a lot of people out there that can relate with that. Even people who are half black, half white, or half this, half that, or what. There's a lot of identity turmoil sometimes in that, and so I get it, and I've just had to lean into that and just know who I am, no matter what all the extra noise is. I know who I am, and I'm very proud of that.
Wow, that's a really good way to look at it. I mean, I've always kind of known myself too, but like both my parents were Chinese. I look very predominantly Chinese, right? And I'm probably very accepted by the Chinese community as being Chinese. But then you look at like my son, who is half Caucasian, half Chinese.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that he doesn't feel accepted, but there's a certain part psychologically, am I Chinese? Am I white? You know what I mean? What is my real background, right?
Yeah. Yep.
All I can say is like,
it's both.
It's both. Yeah, exactly.
It really is. And we got to drown the noise of
Yes.
what everyone else thinks or all the other noise. Just, this is who I literally, like, skin's brown. Yep.
Like, but we're born here.
Yep, exactly.
We're born in America, right?
Yep.
I just like to tell my kids and myself that, we're made in America, but with Chinese parts. Right?
That's hilarious.
So, I mean,
You sound like a toy manufacturing or something.
So we're all the same. We're really built the same. And, it's just really understanding that, right?
Yeah.
We're all Americans. And this picture, you're about 18 there.
Yeah,
And
that's you Mr. 18-year-old. I'm leaning so hard, leaning low as I drive. I'm driving and literally,
you are.
literally, if you're looking from the outside in, it literally, because my head is hiding behind the interior there.
Yeah.
It literally looks like nobody's driving the car because
I didn't realize it. It just
I'm
looked like
so leaned back. Yeah. But yeah, that was trouble right there.
Let me ask you this, and maybe I just didn't get it back then, or still don't get it. But I've seen, back in the day where they're leaning way back. But what was the? Well,
it's just an air. It's just an air. It's just I think it. It's more of a gangster air.
Yeah.
Like it's an air that you carry. Just, I'm a gangster. I'm a drug dealer. I'll fight anyone kind of air. And so guys like that lean all the way back when they're driving, I guess. So
I always thought that it couldn't be the most comfortable way to drive.
Yeah, no, it's
it
definitely
could be
not
the safest.
Yeah, definitely not. So that's funny though.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
If you can go back and sit across that table from that 18-year-old Leo and he had no idea what was coming, what would you tell him?
Man, I would tell him that no matter what life throws at him, no matter how much learning you have to do, through mistakes sometimes that you're worthy, and you don't have to throw your life away over anything or anyone. Yeah, I would say that this guy is very lost almost, just, and I would say that coming to understand, the level of worthiness and acceptance, and that's what I would tell that guy. Yeah.
Yeah, very, very beautifully said. It's just one of those things where you don't always know why you're there, but, keep pushing.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So this is the part where I really appreciated you coming on the show.
Wow.
Got a couple things for you.
Oh, wow.
Of course, you get a trophy for just being on the show with your name imprinted on it.
Oh, look at that. Look at that.
And with your success, always love to make sure you have more successes. So a bucket of fortune cookie with money socks.
Nice. Look at that. Thank you.
And you know what else? I really thought about this other gift that I feel like you really made me realize, like, gratitude is so important every day, because I take for granted that I have a passport. You know what I mean? I've had a passport since I was like 4 years old, right? And I've never had to lose it or anything like that. But you told me that really touched me that you just recently got your passport, and now you're able to, and it feels like freedom. And are we ever truly free when we can't do certain things, right? And it's just that little thing is so big, right? Like that we can take for granted sometimes. And so I know that we talked a little bit about travel, but I got you a book, 1,000 Places to Travel Before You Die, so you can pick a few spots out of there in the world and go check them out. So,
wow.
Yeah.
That is amazing. I was just talking to someone yesterday or the day before. I want to go tour Europe.
It's in there. I think they have some special places that Europe would be fun.
Yeah,
I've never been to Europe. I've been to China, but I've never got to the Great Wall. That's one of the places I would love to get to for my bucket list.
Thank you.
Yeah. I appreciate everything
grateful.
You're doing.
Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for the gifts.
Yeah. Leo, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show, for being on Twin City Tales podcast. If you want to learn more about Leo, you can go to his Facebook page, Leo Sandoval. It's spelled Sandoval, Leo Sandoval, and you can see a lot of him on there. Also, if you follow him on Instagram, Leo Sandoval Speaks. I know I'm going to be following it because, man, he's got an incredible journey that he's been on, and there's a lot more of that journey left because he's young and good looking. If you can't write that fast, we'll put it on our Spotify and YouTube pages for you to be able to track them down. Or you just visit us at the Twin City Facebook page, and we'll post it on there. As we roll out of here, I want to thank you, Chris Hockey, for the use of his song Thanks, with no pun intended. This podcast is powered by Twin City Heating, Air, and Electric, and now with water treatment systems. And remember, you can't go wrong with Wymond Wong on your Twin City Tales podcast.
This song goes out to my family, to all the ones who died before me. I'm sure the family life made you do things you never wanted to, so I wrote this song to say thank you for the breath that I just took, for the life my son will lead. I hope when you look down from heaven, that you are